A meeting with Western Province parliamentarians and public officials was worked off today at the Temple Trees, chaired by the head of the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival, Basil Rajapaksa. During the meeting, a discussion was taken to begin distributing a 5,000 rupee relief payment to families who have lost their sources of income or employment as a result of the curfew. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health issued a set of guidelines to be adhered to by residents in areas not under curfew. Accordingly, only 2 members of each family are allowed to leave their homes unless they are engaged in the provision of essential services or employed in such institutions. Further, public transport in these areas will be allowed to carry 75% of the vehicle's passenger seating capacity. In addition, 3-wheelers and cars engaged in providing taxi services are only allowed to transport 2 passengers per trip. Meanwhile, essential services institutions including electricity, water, telecommunication, postal and courier services can carry out their business activities with a minimum staff requirement. Further, both state and private sector officers will be allowed to operate with a minimum staff, with work from home also permitted for some staff. Meanwhile, export-oriented industries have been instructed to ensure secure accommodation for their workers and are required to provide staff transport as well. In the meantime, supermarkets, shopping malls and textile shops are allowed to carry out businesses with a 50% restriction on customers entering their premises at any given time. Accordingly, the guidelines have outlined a 1.5 square meter walking space as adequate for a single customer within the premises. Further, banks will only be allowed to accommodate a maximum of 50% of their total customer capacity at any given time. The same will apply to groceries, open markets or fairs, economic centers and bakeries as well. Barbershops and beauty salons, laundries, tailor shops and dressmakers, photocopy shops and courts will also be expected to adhere to these regulations. Meanwhile, the health sector will be expected to function with a minimum cadre according to the instructions. However, schools, tuition classes, higher education centers and universities will remain closed, while daycare centers and preschools are allowed to operate with a 50% student capacity. In addition, places of worship can remain open to 25 worshippers at a time and activities have been banned. Liquor retail stores, meanwhile, are permitted to open for business in strict accordance to safety protocols as long as crowding is strictly controlled. In the meantime, the management of the Manning Market in Petta have decided to close the market until further notice following the curfew extension. With members of the public unable to venture out to restock essentials, Minister of Agriculture Mahindananda Alutgamage stated that the provision for essential food items to those in the Western Province will be carried out via the economic centres. Meanwhile, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana had this to say about the home delivery of essential food items in curfew-hit areas.
The divisional secretaries have been given permission to issue curfew permits in respect of those services. Each supermarket or satosa or any other institution, each shop can run 15 delivery services by using their motor vehicles or 3-wheelers or motorcycles. Each food center can implement 10 delivery services, and in addition to that, all the pharmacies are allowed to implement their own delivery services in order to provide essential drug items to the people who are living in the respective area. This delivery services system is implemented from today. The police headquarters has amended the circular that was issued day before yesterday in respect of the employees who have been granted to use their official ID card as the curfew permit. Initially, there were 84 institutions. According to amended circular, it has been extended up to 102 institutions. The ministries, government and non-governmental institutions, the corporations and statutory boards. So therefore, employees of those 102 institutions can use their official ID as the curfew permit.
In another development, the provision of curfew passes to vendors engaged in home delivering essential food items to residents in curfew-hit areas was worked off at all divisional secretariats in the province today.
Lever Ayush Karabu Neti Danta Lepaya Shaktimat Datti Palakata